decision by Trump to say, well, no Ukraine in NATO, not even lots of minerals are going to make us change our minds, and we're not going to give a security guarantee to Ukraine because we're not going to be dragged into a war, whatever happens. But the Brits have said that they want to put troops into Ukraine, along with the French, those two old imperial powers, and they are preparing for something, an insertion in Romania, no less, an operation I think called Steadfast Start. And there's an article in the Telegraph about these gung-ho young men who can't wait to see real battle. Now the question is, will the Brits go in? I mean, the Russians have said, we won't make peace if the Brits and the French patrol the ceasefire line. We're going to carry on fighting. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But supposing that Trump was able to put pressure on the Russians to accept that, but without putting a security guarantee in place that would support the Brits, would the Brits end up facing the Russians alone? And could they face them down? And what would be the consequences of a military conflict between Britain and Russia? Would the Brits be able to bring the Americans in on the weight of public opinion supporting them, saying, well, we can't abandon our special relationship allies, fighting the good fight? So even if there were no formal security guarantee, they might still be dragged into an international World War III type conflagration. Well, Trevor Colt with us, MC. He's a decorated British Army soldier who'd served in the Royal Irish Regiment and a veteran who's sick to death with politicians and is trying to use the media to shame them into fixing the mess they created. He was posted in Cyprus, Northern Ireland, Canada, Oman, Brunei, Kenya, and several other countries. He completed 10 operational tours and was awarded the Military Cross in 2006. He's written a book called First into Sangin and of the Exploitation, and he is currently a YouTuber. Welcome to the show, Trevor.
Well, thank you. That was one hell of an introduction. Thank you very much for that.
What, Trevor, I mean, you're a military man. What do you think of these troops hanging out, 4,000 troops in Romania? They talk a good talk, but, the British Army has only got 12 functioning artillery pieces, apparently. And there's this endless talk about even the expanded defense budget won't make all that much difference when you account for inflation and so on. The interesting thing is there's a show called The Duran where they have quite good contacts in Whitehall and the Ministry of Defence, and they say that their contacts are telling them that quite a lot of people in Whitehall and the MOD are gagging for a military conflict in Russia. Does that sound plausible to you?
No, it sounds sounds like nothing but propaganda. I mean,
Right.
The British Army aren't an army anymore. I thought people knew that. I mean, to be a functioning army, you have to have over 100,000 men. If you look at all the ats and debts and attachments to the British Army, whether it's signallers, chefs, engineers, medics, when you bring all them in, yes, we've got 74,200 or 300, but when it comes down to men that are willing to run into fire and men that are going to cross that line to fight, we've only got 49 battalions, which if you were to make them all fully manned, that would mean we only have 24,500 fighting soldiers. And General Dannett said a few days ago, probably back as 5 or 6 days ago, said that he believed that the British Army only had just over 20,000 men that were actually capable of fighting. So we haven't got the manpower. It's just ludicrous to even think. See, the problem we've got is when I say we've got 49 infantry battalions, we probably have 49 generals as well. We're certainly top heavy. I mean, with brigadiers and colonels and lieutenant colonels, we could probably send all them in first because obviously they're the experts. We're top heavy with officers, and they're completely out of touch with reality. There's only about 3 generals in the British Army that have actually commanded units in combat, and they're ready to retire.
Well, I mean, Basil, I don't know what you think, but the important thing is not that they do they know? I mean, if they're ready to go into battle and they're unprepared, we know that they're unprepared, but do they know they're unprepared? I mean, are they going to do something crazy if they insert themselves into Ukraine? And that's the dangerous thing. And the other thing that worries me, I don't know about you, Basil, is that the Brits kind of know that they're a tripwire, so there can be create a provocation or be recipients of a provocation either from the Ukrainians or someone else. and then they're in a war, and suddenly we're in World War III, and then the Americans will come in eventually because of public opinion, and the media will go big time on the British troops being under fire from the pesky Russians. Basil, is that something that worries you?
Not really. I mean, I can't see that happening. It's highly speculative, and all the indications are that the Trump administration want to go in the opposite direction to that. Now, I agree there are an assortment of hotheads and low IQ idiots in the UK defence establishment who may be posturing and making bellicose noises. But, God willing, they won't get their way, and we won't see British troops on the ground in Ukraine. As Trevor says, there aren't enough of them to begin with. I hope it remains that way because such is the abysmal standard of our political leadership that the likes of Starmer and the Defence Secretary Healy, who said today bizarrely that he wants defence expenditure to be an engine of growth for the UK economy. Well, it's anything but defence expenditure in terms of its multiplier effect in ongoing demand for goods and services and labour in the economy. It's just about the worst thing the government can spend its money on. For every pound it spends on the military, only about 9p is then recirculated into the wider economy. But I digress. What we have got is Britain and America for the first time, and this is why I don't think there's any chance of the Americans coming in on the British side because we've provoked the Russians into firing on us or something. What we've got is Britain and America for the first time since the Second World War going in completely opposite directions. Trump said today that Ukraine can forget about joining NATO. You can forget about it. That's probably the reason the whole thing started, he told reporters. On the other hand, you've got Keir Starmer saying that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to joining NATO. Well, they can't both be right. So I sincerely hope that when Starmer arrives in Washington, I mean, I think he's due there about now, but I haven't seen anything on the wires that his visit is impending. But when he does talk to Trump, I hope he puts him back in his box and sends the little twerp back to England with his tail between his legs, Pelly.
Baz, I mean, I agree with you that Trump seems to be going in a different trajectory, but he's got also his own deep state, and many of whom are still, I mean, haven't been purged. They're still quite anti-Russian. And then he's got all his allies. And I wonder, and he's also, notably, he said, I want the Europeans to take ownership of this Ukraine thing. I want British and French troops in Ukraine or giving security guarantees, And then Starmer said, well, I wouldn't do it without the Americans. And my worry, so Trump says, okay, but you're not going to get that security guarantee from me. You're on your own, right? So, but he goes in, the Brits and the French go in and give their own security guarantees and have NATO or European NATO behind them without Article 5 guarantees whatsoever. They'll get into trouble. And then the Americans, having rejected a security guarantee, find themselves being forced to bail out the Brits. I don't know. What do you think, Trevor?
Well, I don't think the French will step foot in Ukraine without UK support. And I don't think UK will set foot in Ukraine without American support. Right. I think that the president is, I think he's going at this at the right level. I mean, it seems that leaders in Europe have lost their minds. Do they not understand what the Cold War was about? Do they not understand that over the last, say, 50, 60, 70 years, the EU-type Europe have been creeping closer and closer and closer towards Russia? I mean, when the breakup of the USSR and all those countries got their independence, a lot of them ended up joining NATO. So Ukraine was a red line for him, and he's not going to back down. And if British troops do decide to go in there, hopefully it won't trigger World War III, but it certainly is going to put Russia in a more aggressive stance towards the UK. And I think that's where the president is coming in. Now, I used to think President Trump was a lunatic. I think he's got this bit right. He's put pressure on EU leaders to grow up, to get senses, increase their defence budget, and start to look at this from a different angle. But Europe's greedy. The EU's greedy. They're all in debt. They're all in billions, trillions of debt. And what do they want? They want the Ukraine minerals. So they're trying to force that into NATO to get money. That's what everything's about money.
And they made a gamble that there was going to be a quick victory, and maybe that they would have a friendly leader in the Kremlin who would kind of sell out Russia's mineral resources. You know, this vast country, we're a crowded little appendage to the Eurasian continent. But so I'm just going to summarize what I think is that, I mean, Trump has said, okay, Europeans, it's your problem. We're going to pivot to Asia, but we're not going to guarantee you. And then Starmer says, yeah, but okay, but we're not going to go in unless you guarantee us. But, you know, some of us want to go in. And there's a kind of, it's an unresolved issue there, because Ukraine's going to want security guarantees. Do we have to have the Brits and the French? I mean, these guys are up to their necks in the Ukraine conflict anyway. There's special forces all over the place. I know I sound like a sort of a kumbaya sort of adherent, but I mean, what about the UN? The UN was used after Suez in '56 when the Brits and French wanted to be there, and you ended up with the Ethiopians patrolling the Suez Canal, you know?
Is that for Basil?
Yeah, over to you, Trevor. Sorry.
Trevor, yeah.
Oh, sorry. The UN are a spent force. Let's be honest. What do? They observe genocide. They did it in Bosnia, did it in Kosovo, they did it in Iraq. I don't think the UN add much value anymore. It's about time that they were replaced. I mean, I know probably 50, 60, maybe 70 soldiers that are traumatized from standing there with their blueberry on and watching genocide take place in front of them. Is that meant to be a peacekeeper? It's a shocking way to behave. I think they're done. And I'd like to point out that I believe this conflict's lasted 3 years for one reason and one reason only. The West needed to get rid of their ammunition that they had built up for Afghanistan, so they threw it all at Ukraine to fire off against Russia. And it's probably coming to a stage now where the ammunitions have all ran out, so maybe it's time for a peace talk.
Wow. Basil, do you have the same critical view of the UN? I mean, it's easy to do. I think they're all, you know, everyone is against globalism and a sort of new world order and one world can criticize the UN, and Trump's been doing it on the campaign trail. That said, I mean, they went to the UN a couple of days ago to put forward the proposal. I mean, I think jaw is better than war. If they can fight over sort of commas and full stops in the UN resolution, then they won't be shooting at each other. But Basil, what do you think?
Well, I would think so, except the UN's been completely sidelined by the genocide in Gaza, for example. Earlier this week, the United States voted with Russia at the Security Council in favor of a swift end to the conflict in Ukraine. The United Kingdom, cowardly as ever, abstained. What is the point of having a seat on the Security Council if you're going to abstain from crucial votes like that? But the UN has largely just become a sort of sideshow, a theatre, really, a sort of a glorified version of the conversation that we see on social media. It doesn't actually have any power. People did think 20, 30 years ago that it was the forerunner of world government and that we were going to see it sort of stretching its tentacles and the, you know, national boundaries dissolved. You know, that hasn't happened at all. You know, disagreements with the UN, within the UN, are every bit as voluble as they always have been. But it doesn't enforce its own resolutions. It doesn't actually do anything. It's just a talking shop, much in the same way that, you know, social media is a talking shop, YouTube is a talking shop. Of course, these official positions are recorded for history's sake, and there is some reverberation around UN decisions, but nobody pays any meaningful attention to what the UN Secretary General does. He doesn't have any troops at his disposal. I mean, theoretically, you would say the Ukraine situation is absolutely ripe for UN peacekeepers to be introduced, and perhaps from Africa or South American or Oriental countries that don't have any skin in the game. You know, why not have, you know, Ghanaian and Indonesian peacekeepers who, you know, are not aligned to either side? But that nobody's even discussing that, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's be done with the UN then. A little bird whispered in my ear, Trevor, that you had it in. We're going to talk about propaganda. You can't have proper democracy if you can't find out what's going on in the world. And as we were saying earlier in the show, I mean, there's no nothing in the mainstream UK media. I think there was an item on the BBC, but not on the Telegraph or Guardian rolling news. They talked about smaller things, but not this very big thing about the arrest of Romanian presidential candidate. Trevor, somebody said to me that you had it in for the 77th Brigade. Is that true? And that you have some knowledge about it?
Yes, I have. I've had lots of people get in touch with me about 77 Brigade. Now, the 77 Brigade is actually a branch of the UK military. No one really knew much about it until round about the pandemic. And that's when it sort of came into its own. Now, this has nothing to do with censorship. If you look at their own rules and regulations, this is a psychological unit which is meant to put out non-lethal warfare, behavioral influence. So basically what they do is they go looking for people that are active on social media, people that are giving out what they believe is wrong information, or information that goes against government propaganda. And what they do is they go after individuals psychologically, and they create accounts. Now, it actually says on their own platform, they will create accounts of fake accounts along social media, and they go after individuals that they believe are getting out the wrong message, and they psychologically destroy them. They go after their friends, their family, and different platforms until the individual deletes his social media or her social media to come off the platform. It's wrong in what they do. I do have many, many different types of proof of this. Tonight I was sent a video by a lady in the US who has studied 77 Brigade and what they do. Now, that's the downside of 77 Brigade. But there is an upside of it as well, let's be honest. They go after foreign platforms. They try and stop other governments from interfering in what we do. They're very good at IT. They're very good in creating a safe environment for us. But they also don't want its own citizens to speak out. So it has a great effect for us towards the world. But it's reached the stage now where I think it needs looked at. Its budget keeps increasing. It's went from 7.6 million to 14 million, and it's going to increase again, where they are actively hiring people that are IT specialists. So I don't like the direction that they're going in, because it's not censoring, it's silencing.
And I guess, I mean, they're under the radar. I guess if you talk to people, most of them will not have heard of the 77th Brigade. And so it operates without oversight or democratic awareness. And I mean, it used to be said that the CIA can't, it goes after the bad guys in other countries, but it can't intervene domestically. But that's exactly what they ended up doing. Does the 77th Brigade, I mean, it's supposed to protect us. I won't go into if it's protecting us. Okay, let's assume that they're doing a good job there. But are they not also interfering with, let's say, UK journalists, UK critics of COVID, UK writers or journalists who are saying, well, maybe Russia is onto something? You know, there are arguments that NATO's expanded too much. Could such a critic or a commenter be sort of destroyed psychologically and through social media attacks on him?
Yes, 100%. This is what the 77 Brigade does. It's psychological warfare to destroy people's credibility. And if you destroy journalists' credibility, then no one takes that journalist serious. And that's what they do. They go after people. I myself, in the last 2 years, I've been investigated 3 times for fraud. I've been investigated for online harassment. I've been arrested for witness intimidation. I've had hate crime thrown at the door. I've had Suffolk police here non-stop. MI5 have a file on me where I have been online, and because I have a bit of a following and I talk about things which are sensitive, they target individuals. But I'm not the only one. I have reached out to several veterans that are really well known that have had the same issues, being investigated for fraud, being called a crank, being called there's something wrong with them. So I'm a victim of this, but I know about 10 other veterans that are going through the same issues at the minute. And the whole idea is they want people to do what I did. I deleted Facebook. I deleted Twitter. I came off those platforms because it was so bad. And once you put a rumor about somebody and it gathers speed, and someone, it just keeps gathering and gathering and gathering until all of a sudden I'm receiving threats at my door. I'm receiving threats towards my son and my family. I mean, it just got ridiculous. So I do know what 77 Brigade do, and they are an appalling branch of the British Army.
Wow. And thanks for speaking out. I mean, you might get even more harassment after this, but incredibly important statements there from yourself, sir. We're going to go into an ad break and we'll be back in a minute or so. This is the the Pell and Basil show, evening panel show, and we'll be back after the break.
Get your favorite merchandise from our official The Pulse shop. You'll find exclusive online t-shirts, mugs, hats, hoodies, and more at thepulse.today.
From weather and traffic reports
to news of political developments,
we turn to journalists for the information we need to live our daily lives.
Journalists around the world provide news that is essential for democracy,
for personal freedom, and for safety and stability.
Yet their ability to report freely and safely is under attack like never before.
Too many journalists are paying with their lives. They face exponential risks and they've already paid a heavy toll.
Death threats, online harassment, and physical attacks
are becoming a daily experience of journalists in all countries.
We just want people to be safe, to be able to get our readers the information that they need to make informed decisions.
They checked my phone and realized that it was Pegasus. I feel myself like I'm naked in the street.
These charges were politicized from the start.
Facts win. Truth wins. Justice wins.
C'est énorme pour moi d'être là, d'être libre, surtout que je ne m'y attendais pas du tout.
Stand with a free press.
Stand with journalists whose reporting won't be silenced. Press freedom is your freedom.
Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Free speech is alive and well. Today's News Talk, The Pulse.
Welcome back to the Pell and Basil show on this Wednesday evening. We've got Trevor Colt with us talking about the incredible harassment he's received from the 77th Brigade, or 77 Brigade, which is a sort of British Army psychological warfare unit that attacks whistleblowers and people who speak out against the prevailing narratives. And maybe it's unsurprising that our opinion forming in Europe, at least, is so streamlined. Basil, is this news to you?
No, not at all. And two disturbing stories coming out today are, if not directly related to 77th Brigade, then other departments of the UK National Security State, including the rebranded National Security Online Information Team, NSOIT, which was the counter-disinformation unit. Now, what they're going to do is set out a new AI system which will trawl social media for what are described as concerning posts. A very woolly term, obviously. Concerning to who? So that this secretive organization can take what they say is going to be action. And this, of course, is inspired by the so-called Centre for Countering Digital Hate, following the Southport riots last year. And Ofcom will be given an expanded emergency response power to combat so-called misinformation deemed a threat to national security or the health and safety of the public. Together with this, we learned that 50 million British people's driving licence photographs may now be used by police for facial recognition searches. It's disturbing to see the government reheating the Conservatives' abandoned plans to grant all prison forces access to driving licence photos, opening the door to the creation of a massive facial recognition database. More than 50 million Brits hold driving licences. The Crime and Policing Bill allows the government to grant police officers extraordinary powers to identify anyone with a driving licence at the click of a button. It's all part of the growing totalitarianism, Pelly.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's the way all these things are interconnected. So, I mean, Trevor was talking about, I guess these are the tough guys, the ones on 77th Brigade, the ones at the hard end of psychological assault. but it's good. Their action is perhaps guided by the people who are flagged up by AI. So AI can be frighteningly accurate sometimes, and they can read your personality with much greater perspicacity than a mere human being, and they'll analyze everything, number crunch all your posts, and then you might have suspicious cyber visits from the 77th Brigade. Is there any accountability? I mean, how, Trevor, the media, they're not doing their job in reporting this or flagging up their anxieties about it. Is anyone talking about it? I mean, I sort of feel helpless when I hear these sorts of things.
Well, a lot of individuals are fearful to talk about it because, as you now are fully aware, the knock on the door. I've had the police here several times. I mean, if you talk about certain topics online, the police will come to you. They will take you away. I've spent 12 hours in a cell here in Suffolk Police for the fact because someone says I've done something. But I find this strange, though, that they're using a system. They're using a system to dispel information that they believe deemed maybe against national security. But why are they using this system to troll through hate crimes, to troll through all these bombers that seem to slip the net when they're being watched vitally? So they're not being able to stop terrorism. And when people like me and other veterans speak out about terrorism, and we speak out about, well, for instance, there's an empty barracks down in Connacht Barracks in Dover, which could be utilised to put veterans in to help with the border. You then get a knock on the door because it's like, whoa, stop this, Mr. Cole. You cannot talk about stopping people coming. That's a hate crime. And I'm like, well, why don't we utilise veterans to go into the camp? I know what the camp layout is. Veterans are the only ones that are willing to stand up and actually take the fight to our enemies. I mean, and to talk like that is classed as a hate crime. So a lot of veterans are skeptical at doing it. And this is exactly why, and I'm going to be honest, this is exactly why Tommy Robinson is becoming so powerful in this country. He can go, not now, clearly he's locked up. But word gets out that Tommy say, we're going to do a march around London. You can get over 1 million people to London. I mean, Tommy's more powerful than the Prime Minister. The British public have given up on politicians. Most police forces, I mean, every single day when I go through the media and I check it, there is at least one detective or one police officer that's carried out rape or grooming or done something, and they're in the paper. The police don't police anymore. And we're getting to the stage now where towns across the country would rather have vigilantes protect their own families than trust the police. And that in itself is extremely dangerous to even talk about that on social media.
I mean, basically what you're saying is like this two-tier policing where the indigenous white population, they get hammered with hate crimes, whereas, let's say, Muslims who, or grooming gangs, white or Muslim, get a free pass, I mean, there's that one judge who put one paedophile out on day release and then locked someone up who'd been swearing at a police dog for 2 years jail for that, outrageous. I guess it's because you represent a threat to the state because you still have some kind of residual power in numbers or something. But it's funny. I mean, they can't do anything about the terrorists, but they can do something about you guys. When you say that Tommy Robinson can muster 1 million people, how does he get it out then if he's so surveilled? I mean, or if these things that you're talking about are so effective.
Well, Tommy doesn't get visits now. This is why they've put Tommy in isolation. This is why he's in isolation. His wife can't even come and see him. I speak to, when I say I speak, I text a fantastic lady called June Slater. There's a lot of good people out there that are doing great stuff. And Tommy has family, which prior to him going into jail, I guarantee he would have set out things that he knows. He's quite an intelligent guy, believe it or not. I don't believe in everything he does, I'm going to be honest with you. But he's got people around him that make sure that he's not forgotten. They say we're doing a march to free Tommy, and what happens? London can have 500,000 plus people in there within hours. That's how powerful that guy. This is why he's going to be locked up. I mean, I think the guy was saying a few days ago, someone said a few days ago, have to watch what I say, that he believes that he could possibly die in prison. I mean, he's been on hunger strike for a while. He doesn't trust the prison officers with the food because he's been that badly treated. But yet, at the same time, it's quite strange. At the same time, we're having terrorists released from prison that have actually killed British citizens. The censorship that we have, has gone. It used to be a censorship. We were quite happy to watch things be censored from our children. We knew what needed to be censored. We didn't need to be told what needed censored. We were adults. But now it's went from censorship to just isolating us from everything. They've went beyond that now. It's went beyond censorship.
Wow. Basil, I mean, do you think there's going to be a revolution in the UK? Because Starmer's in for the next 4.5 years. And from what I gather, I'm located in Sweden, but I have a British background. You know, the climate is completely explosive in the UK. When I hear people like Trevor, and the poverty is increasing, a tone-deaf, blind establishment wants to escalate a war which Britain can't afford and the world can't stand. You know, I think Britain is increasingly isolated. I think more and more countries in Europe want peace now. And then this high inflation rates and so on. I mean, do you feel that is there a potentially explosive situation in the UK?
Well, we do have the most unpopular and the most uniquely abysmal government in living memory, or going back, even further than that. I mean, it's hard to think of a government that managed to combine incompetence, vanity, narcissism, warmongering, and mediocrity all at the same time, wrapped up in this very unpleasant authoritarian wrapping as well. It's just absolutely dreadful. But the British people haven't had a revolution since the 1640s, unless you count the glorious revolution of 1688. So no, it's highly unlikely there will be. Instead, people will content themselves with voting against the ruling party in by-elections and council elections, and we'll all have to sit it out until there's another plebiscite in 4.5 years' time. There's a chance that the Labour Party will try and replace Starmer at the top of the ticket before the next election, but the candidate being mooted as most likely to replace him is the man so brilliantly described by Alexei Sale as Starmer's illegitimate love child made of margarine, the man taking a chainsaw to the NHS in his bid to privatise it, Wes Streeting, who should really have lost his own seat at the last election. So unfortunately, the first past the post system we have in Britain means that our options are very limited, according to Starmer, because he managed to weasel his way in with a large majority last July, basically on a pack of lies. He now has the right to act like an elected dictator for the next 4.5 years. It's a very, very dismal prospect. I mean,
Yeah. Well, the Brits, I mean, they've got Starmer, who's got these terribly low popularity rates. What I heard was that maybe if he really embraced the credo of the hawks in the British government, in the British deep state when he came in, sometimes this happens to leftists, happened to Blair.
He's not a leftist, Pelly. He's not a leftist.
Okay,
never has
sorry.
been, never
Okay.
will be.
All right.
He's somebody
he's a notional
used
leftist, nominal
the Labour
leftist.
Party.
Okay. All right.
No, he's simply somebody let me finish. He's somebody who simply clothed himself in the Labour Party as a means of obtaining power. Simple as that. Never has
He's a
been
Trotskyist in the youth, and Trotskyists are power mad, aren't they? Anyway, he decided, apparently the Foreign Office tried to restrain him when he came in and said, let's get back into the middle of the pack when it comes to confronting Russia. And he decided to double down and outdo the Tories on that. And then from what I've heard then is that if he goes a little bit even further now, if he's increasingly isolated, he can't persuade Trump to issue a security guarantee and so on, he might actually be ousted in an internal coup. Have you any thoughts about that, Trevor?
You know what? It's a word that I'm afraid to use online, actually, because I do not want arrested again. I'm sick of it. But yes, you've said that perfectly. The last word you said there is what this country possibly needs. There's certainly enough strong-willed individuals in this country to be able to remove a person who has got nothing but disdain against the United Kingdom. I have seen nothing positive from Keir Starmer since he took over. When I look back at Keir Starmer and the fact that whenever he was Attorney General, he had his fingers in the pie when it came to the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland, where all the terrorists were released on the street. He had his fingers in the pie whenever he ignored the Jimmy Savile. He said there was nothing to see here. He also was quite vocal in getting the new Attorney General, Lord Hermer, in his position. And we know that Lord Hermer at the minute, not only did he give advice and represent one of the 9/11 bombers, not only did he actually help in trying to sue MI5 for another client, and he also is now singing from the rooftops trying to get Gerry Adams compensation for being held in internment during a time when Northern Ireland was in a terrible state with terrorism. And right now I'm seeing a Prime Minister who not only has stated that he would like to see British troops boots on the ground in Ukraine, he's also introducing a death tax. So if single soldiers are killed in Ukraine, then he's going to tax them on it. He's going to tax their death. So I don't see anything that shows me that he has got leadership qualities or the fact that he's actually a decent human being.
Just interesting. I don't know if you guys have, from your sources, have heard anything about his association with child abuse. He was on that Jim'll Fix It, Jimmy Savile, the photos of him. I don't know if it's X. I mean, we always have to take X with a pinch of salt, but apparently there are photos floating around on X which show a young Starmer as a child on the Jim'll Fix It show. And I wondered, an MI6 writer told me last year, he said, no one rises to the top in politics without having something that they can be blackmailed for. That's why they rise to the top, so that they can be controlled, because they are controllable. Have you heard? I hesitate to say anything for fear that you'll get the knock on the door after this show. But
no. Well, it comes second nature to me. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a Twitter account, an X account, so I don't get to see what's on there. Right. I said before that the amount of attacks I had on there from even from Johnny Mercer and Tobias Elwood, two politicians that used to attack me on there quite a lot. So and they're part of 7/7 Brigade, like to point that out. So I took myself off that platform, so I don't get to see. I don't know of anything to do with Jim'll Fix It show and Sir Keir Starmer. I'll call him Sir Keir Starmer. I don't know anything about that. Wouldn't be surprised though.
Trevor, and Trevor and Basil, we've got to wind up for tonight. Trevor Colt, thank you so much. MC, decorated British Army soldier, served in the Royal Irish Regiment and has written books and served in many countries, and now is a vicious thorn in the side of the current government. And you told us very entertainingly and interestingly, or rather worryingly, about the 77th Brigade, which is the British Army's psychological destruction unit, which might be coming to a Twitter comment feed near you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We're going to our next show after the break.